Can we have a statement, Marshal?
Well, I'm not much for speeches. I leave that to the politicians. I am just a man who's doing the job that people elected me to do. I think today we sent out a message to all lawbreakers. In Junction City, you will respect the law, or you will learn to fear it. I guess these boys are just slow learners. Huh?
3 cheers for Marshal Kurtz. Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hip. Hooray!
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Oh. You can't hear me?
Oh, you're very, very quiet.
What? Nothing changed since when we were doing the practice stuff before. What happened?
I have no idea.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Like, we were having technical issues before the show. We were fine. We talked for 10 minutes, and then I hit play, and now you can't hear me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The greater good.
There you go. I mean, of course you had to do it in your accent. I mean, not what do we do? That's funny. Well, hey, man. Oh, crap.
What's up?
Yeah, that's funny. Like, seriously, like we do all like we spend 10 minutes beforehand talking and making sure we're all on the same page about stuff, and do we have this and we have that, and then if we get into the show and legacy podcasting, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it. No, we won't. You know, I'm going to keep this all so it stays in. This is episode 468. That's right. If this is your first episode, we've been doing this for 468 episodes, and we still can't figure this thing out. But tonight we're talking about Lightnin' Jack. And if you don't know what that movie is, I wouldn't be surprised, because I had never heard of it until Andrew said, hey, we should do this. Because February has been kind of a weird month. Sam was here, and then he was gone, and Andrew was here, and he was gone. So we've had a lot of inconsistencies and stuff, and I didn't know how to plan this month. So it's just been a, hey, what do you want to do next week? And
right.
So earlier this week, we were just trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and Andrew said, hey, we should do a Western. And I said, oh, that sounds cool. And you picked something else entirely.
Yeah, Slow West.
Slow West, but it's on Hulu, which I don't have.
Right.
So we started looking at something else, and then you said, oh my gosh, this movie that you had seen once or twice when you were younger
well, once or twice is kind of an understatement.
Oh no, this was a regular for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then that'll make this episode even more fun, because I had never even heard of it.
Yeah,
so,
I'm interested to see what your reaction is.
Yeah, so you picked it, and I'm like, okay, Paul Hogan, sign me up. That sounds great. Because I've only ever seen him in Crocodile Dundee. I didn't know he existed out of those 3 movies. That's right, there's 3.
Right.
So anyway, with that all having been said, I am Shawn Allred, your host, and joining me, of course, is Andrew. I bought this podcast off of Ginger for $50, Jimison.
Right. I love how in this movie, every 30 minutes I go through sofa medicine man, $50, right? Like it just costs me $30.
Yeah.
Everything is like a little talisman that he has. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And funny.
It actually adds to the charm. In my opinion. And I like it. The other thing that he does, we're just going to dive straight. That was weird. We're going to dive straight into this movie. And the other thing that he does that he also does in the Crocodile Dundee movies is like he has this persona he has to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So we as the audience get to see, everything. But, he only shows. So like I remember, so in this, he's trying to be tough, and he takes the cigar, lights it, and then puts it out inside his mouth, right?
Right.
Which would be awful. And then, of course, he turns, faces the camera, and Cuba Gooding Jr. is thinking, "Oh, this guy's a badass," and he's like, he winces in pain because it would hurt.
And tastes terrible, I'm sure.
It's terrible, yeah. Which we also see him spit out, so I don't know if he swallowed it or what he did. But like he does that bit also in Crocodile Dundee, the first one, where he's taken the woman out into the bush, and he's using a Bic razor to shave, and then when he sees her coming, he hides the razor and pulls out his big Bowie knife and is like, shaving with his knife because he has to maintain the persona of the Australian that uses his knife for everything. So I thought that was I liked that bit that it carried on from Dundee. So you've seen this a bunch. Tell me more about. I guess tell us what the movie is first, and then we'll.
Okay.
I know.
So
can't be a lot of people that know what this is.
Right. Lightning Jack Kane is an Australian outlaw in the Wild West. During a bungled bank robbery, he picks up a mute Ben Doyle as his hostage. The two become good friends, with Jack teaching Ben how to rob banks while they plan Jack's last heist. So, I mean, that it's not really well worded and not great grammar, but not well written. But you get the point. Like, he's an outlaw, and he, I don't know that it's necessarily just him. It makes it sound like he's the one that bungled the bank robbery at the beginning of the movie, but that was his gang. And then when he goes to the one by himself, he kind of bungles it a little bit, I guess. But that's where he meets Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character and takes him hostage, and he can't talk. And so that's kind of the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah, it is interesting for, at this point in 94? That Cuba, he's still pretty young to the acting scenes. So it's not like he's, he hasn't done Jerry Maguire yet. I don't.
Right. No, not at that point.
Yeah, and so he's not, commanding huge roles. So that's why he's able to, he picks up this role where he doesn't say anything. Who takes on a role where you don't talk at all?
Right. Unless it's like a movie about a mute person and how they overcome difficulties, but this is not that at all.
Yeah, he was in Boys in the Hood before that, obviously. And he was also in A Few Good Men.
Right.
I forgot that he was in that. Corporal Carl Hammaker. Sorry. I forgot he was in that.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then Lightning Jack. He was in the Blown Away movie that we watched with the guy, gosh dang it, the IRA bomber, and
Yeah.
Blown Away. It has like the really cool scene at the end of the movie where the boat blows. Tommy Lee Jones is the bad guy.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. I know who you're talking about though.
He's the bad guy from Iron Man. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he says he is uncredited bomb squad class member.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in that. Outbreak, Tuskegee Airmen, and then Jerry Maguire. So 2 years later was Jerry Maguire. And then that's where like his career really, then from there he goes As Good as It Gets, What Dreams May Come, Welcome to Hollywood, The Kid, Men of Honor. Men of Honor is great.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I love him in that too. Pearl Harbor, Rat Race, and then a bunch of other stuff. So he's a really good actor, and I think he's actually good in this movie as this kind of awkward, bumbling, naive virgin kid.
Yeah, and I think it's meant to be played as a kid or a very young person. He doesn't really come across as that. Really, he kind of looks like he's in his 20s or so. But I think maybe he's supposed to be a little younger in the movie. It never says, but he's probably supposed to be playing like 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's young enough that he didn't have like a normal upbringing, so it's not like, I mean, when he's never slept with a woman, like there's a lot of things first that this movie he gets to experience,
Mhm.
and so yeah, and plus when you put him next to grizzled, Paul Hogan, who in '96 he looks like he's 70.
Right.
Though, so honestly, this is gonna sound bad. I thought he was dead. I thought Paul Hogan had left us,
Really?
and he's still alive. And in fact,
Yeah.
something not that long ago, basically it was like a documentary about himself
Yeah.
and whatever. And so like when you see him now, let's see, because the thing that he just did was called The Very Excellent Mr. Dundee. That was in 2020.
Mhm.
And oh, wait a minute, I thought this is a real movie. Hold on.
It's not a documentary?
I thought it was. It looks like one. Paul Hogan is reluctantly thrust back into the spotlight as he desperately attempts to restore his sullied reputation on the eve of being knighted.
Hmm.
So I can't tell what it is.
Wow.
It says
Yeah.
PG-13. It's an hour and a half.
Wow. Okay. So it's a movie about, it's kind of like the Nick Cage movie where
Yeah,
he's playing himself.
he's playing himself. So like I'm looking at the trailer like right now, and so it's him,
Yeah. But it's also got like
like real
what's the guy? Yeah.
like people playing. Like
Jordan.
Hugh Jackman is in it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's got a 5. It's sitting right at a 5.0 on IMDb.
It's got John Cleese and Chevy Chase in it. Wow. Okay.
Let's just get a bunch of old guys.
Yeah.
It's funny. I kind of want to see this though, just because. I mean,
Yeah. I'm curious about it. Yeah.
yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, if you're listening and you want to watch Lightning Jack, you can watch it for free on the Roku channel, or I just Googled Lightning Jack, and you can watch it on YouTube for free as well.
Okay. So,
Yeah, and actually, the one on YouTube is a little better quality. It's not as grainy.
Oh, I wish I had known that.
Yeah.
Well, because that was so. I learned something because of this movie. There's a difference between the Roku app and the Roku channel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I downloaded the Roku app on my iPad to pull clips for the show, and it's not on the Roku app. But when I go into my web browser and type in the channel, there it is.
Right, and you can watch it on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, how many times have you seen this movie? I'm curious.
All right, so I want to give a little backstory. So this came out in '94. I was in 4th grade, 5th grade, maybe.
Mhm.
So I was 10, 11, maybe, when this movie came out. And I watched it, I guess, when my parents brought it home from the movie. Like, we didn't go to the movies to see this. We didn't go to the theater.
Sure.
But I remember my parents bringing it home on VHS. And we watched it as a family when I was 10 or 11. Which there are some things in here that when I was 10 or 11, I didn't know what they meant. And there are certainly some lines that they say that just went right over my head. But because I had seen it at that age, I just assume it's a movie that I'm fine to watch. So anytime it came on HBO or anytime it came on, a cable channel, which it did come on quite a bit on HBO for a while. And I think maybe my parents even bought it on VHS. So we would watch it quite a bit. And it just became one of those movies that we watched as a family when it came on. That and City Slickers were like, I know City Slickers is not a official Western, but those were the two that I grew up watching that I kind of considered myself watching Westerns when it was this movie. And then, when the Wild Wild West came out, which I don't really consider that a Western either. But this is probably the closest to a Western I ever saw before I became, a movie podcaster and watching all these different movies that we've actually seen westerns. Back to the Future 3, probably the other one that I
Yeah.
considered a western that's not really a western. So yeah, so that's my history with this movie. You want my 5-word review?
Sure, go ahead.
So I said Crocodile Dundee meets the Old West,
Okay.
and I said one of my guilty pleasures.
Okay.
I really like watching this movie because of the nostalgia of watching it with my family when I was younger. But also, it's just, it's one of those movies that I still laugh at it. There's still things in it. Now, it's not a really great movie, admittedly, but it has these moments that make you chuckle. And there are some really funny movie moments in this that I still think about today. Like I'll just be sitting randomly and I think about him eating the cigar, or when Cuba Gooding Jr. falls off the horse just trying to, like, I think about those things from time to time and just laugh.
Yeah. I get that. I can see why this is a guilty pleasure for someone, because it's fun and simple and easy to watch, and you could just kind of flip on and there it is on TBS on a Sunday and just watch it and be okay. Like, I'm at the scene where Kuba, it freezes in the bank and like can't do anything and then shoots himself in the foot, like.
Right.
And this movie has a lot of slapstick to it, and and it made me laugh too. I had some real laugh out loud moments. The one that I wrote down, I wanted to make sure that I talked about, was when he's trying to break Lightning Jack out of jail.
Yeah.
He's trying to break him out of jail, and at first he's trying to knock on the door. He knocks the door, and the guy's like, "Unless you can tell me who you are, I'm not opening the door." So he's like, "Oh." So then he's like, "Oh wait, there's a hardware store. I know hardware store because I work in a general store. I know what's in there. Therefore, I can use this to my advantage." So he's looking in, and he doesn't want to just break a window. And he's like, "Oh, I can go in through the roof because of the skylight or whatever." He climbs the roof and just falls through the roof.
Right.
Construction in 1878 or whatever it is. It just goes through the roof, and I just died. That cracked. I wasn't expecting it, which I should have, because nothing funny had happened for a couple minutes, and so it's like all of a sudden he goes through the roof, and I died. I woke up my wife laughing on that one.
Right.
She fell asleep about 4 minutes into this movie, so she was tired.
Yeah, I do remember also from a kid that when he becomes Comanche Doyle and he puts the necklace around his neck, my parents had to explain to me what that was.
Nice.
Because at that time I was still innocent enough that I didn't really know what testicles were, and I was like, "Oh, he's wearing a necklace of balls around his neck."
Yeah, that's a funny bit. I mean, there is a lot to enjoy, and there are moments in this movie that, as I'm watching, it was triggering something in my memory, like my deep memory of, I think I've seen parts of this before, like channel flipping and seeing. There was a couple of gags that I remember, like the snake part.
Yeah,
where Hogan thinks he's been bitten by a snake, and he's like, "All right, you're going to have to suck the poison out." Or actually, Cuba says he'll do it. He's like, "I'll suck the poison out." And then when he realizes that it's on his ass, he makes him put the gun to his head. So it was funny. And then he sees that it's a splinter, it's a thorn, and he doesn't have to do it. So it's a great relief to all.
I think that bit might be in some other movies too.
And maybe it is. Maybe that's
so it seems familiar. Yeah.
Because when I saw that, I thought, this seems familiar. And so if you're listening or watching, and if there's another movie that's from, let me know in the comments or whatever, because I'd be curious because that whole bit seemed very familiar.
Yeah.
So I did 5-word review. So again, I had never seen this movie. I had never heard of it. But I'm really glad we watched it. I really am. I needed a good laugh yesterday, just because Yesterday was an expensive day in my house, so it was nice to end it with just some chuckles.
Yeah.
But I will say this, as far as Paul Hogan and Crocodile Dundee, which just watching this makes me actually want to go watch the Crocodile Dundee movies again because I liked them as a kid so much.
Yeah.
And that made me think, like, should we do them for the podcast? Like, should just do 1 and 2 back to back sometime? I don't even know if they're streaming anywhere. And I was looking on IMDb, and IMDb has the first one pretty favorable. The second one not as much. But I always liked the second one better.
I did too, and I think that's because it was more of a comedy, I guess, because he was fish out of water. Being in the big city, and
both movies are fish out of water, right? Because he starts in Australia and then goes to New York.
The
girl. So you have fish out of water moments there, and then he starts in New York and has fish out of water moments. Then goes back to the outback. But there's something about in the second one where there's bad guys. Like there's bad guys to defeat.
Right.
Kind of like not really a Die Hard, but it's a man versus an army kind of. And that I like, and there's just something about taking this Mexican cartel to the outback and kicking their ass.
Yeah.
So anyway, my 5 review, I wrote 3 of them. I was feeling it. A less clever Crocodile Dundee. Just because I think the character is more clever. In this movie, he's a little dim-witted, a little bit.
Right.
Not the worst Western ever. Now, this joke only works if you remember in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, the early 2000s, Paul Hogan was the face for Subaru. He did all these Subaru commercials, and I'm pretty sure he also didn't he do Foster's, or was it just Subaru? I think it was just Subaru.
I don't think it was just Subaru. I don't remember him doing Foster's.
He would drive around in the Outback, and do stuff. But of course, we as Americans know Foster's and their tagline, Foster's Australian for beer. All right. That's the setup, so you understand the point of the punchline of the joke, which is Lightning Jack, Australian for bullshit. Because
that he is good at, yeah.
Is so good at bullshit. I mean, when he bluffs like 2 different groups of guys about the Comanche, whatever his name is. That's
Comanche Doyle.
Comanche Doyle. And just again, like all the little trinkets that he buys. It just I don't know if he's been had, or if he genuinely believed them, or these are just trinkets he found at the dollar store version of the Old West, but he tells these stories to give them more value.
Oh yeah. I always looked at it as he was duped into buying these things because he's, like you said, he is a little dim-witted and thinks that he's better. Like, he thinks he's a better bank robber. He thinks he's a better cowboy. He thinks he's good at, he says, I've got a silver tongue when he tries to buy the horse. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get this for $5. And then he's like, $30. That's a highway robbery, or whatever he said. But I think that's it, because the whole premise of the movie is he wants people to know him. Like, he wants to be infamous, and he wants to be this big time cowboy bank robber, and nobody knows him.
Yeah, because he's not part of the. And also watching this movie, and it's funny because when we were looking at westerns, I said, I wonder if American Outlaws is streaming, which is not, because when they're talking about the Younger Gang, that movie is about that. It's about Jesse James and the Younger Gang, the James Gang and the Younger Gang. And in the movie, they have this dumb bit where the leader of the Younger Gang, who's played by James Caan, Scott Conn, sorry, the son, Scott Conn. They're making an argument like saying, well, we combine our two gangs. What are we going to call ourselves? And the guy's like, well, it should be the James Younger gang. And he goes, what about the Younger James gang? And he goes, but then people are going to assume that there's an older James gang and that we're the younger version we're the younger version. And, like, I think DJ Qualls is in that movie.
Yeah.
Remember that guy, that skinny weirdo, early 2000s. Like, he was in everything for about 5 years and then nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
They needed a nerd for new guy or whatever the other movie he was in.
Guy, yeah, the new guy, as well as Road Trip. And
wasn't he like a superhero or an anti-hero or maybe he was a villain in something? It seems like he was in a superhero movie and he was. Gosh, yeah, but you're right. Like he was in a lot of stuff and then all of a sudden he disappeared.
Yeah, that was fantastic. All I typed on IMDb was DJ, and he was the first one that came up. How cool is that? He's still doing stuff. I mean, he's still doing stuff. I mean, good for him. But he was in 30 episodes of The Man in the High Castle, which I've not seen. Episodes of Fargo, Hawaii Five-0. So, but I'm trying to remember, like, keep going. Oh, he was an episode of Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
Episode of Monk. That makes sense. Criminal Minds. All right. So, here's where I know him from, mostly. All right. Let's see. So, 2000, he does Road Trip, which is the first time I'd seen him.
Right.
And then Lone Star State of Mind. And then The New Guy, which I love. I love that movie. It's a terrible movie, but I love it. It's just, I love everything about that movie. It's just one of those guilty pleasures. If it's ever streaming, I don't know, maybe it is. I want to do that movie for the podcast. And then he does The Core, where he's a hacker who is able to control the entire internet from his phone. Hustle and Flow. And then that's kind of it. Like then from there he just kind of does stuff. But he does Hustle, Flow, Core, The New Guy, Road Trip, all within about 5 years. And there's a couple other movies in there I didn't even, in Lone Star State of Mind. Like all of those were in about 4 years. So it just felt like he was everywhere. So anyway, he had some great lines though in Road Trip.
Yeah.
Like when he had sex with that girl and he was like, I had sex with a girl. Anyway, I don't know how we got there to DJ Qualls.
I have no idea.
I don't either. But my point is that this movie was fun. I have no idea how to bring it back. So I did find it interesting that where is it? Beverly D'Angelo gets third billing. She's on the poster behind you. And she doesn't show up until 45 minutes into this movie.
Right.
And I kept waiting for her to show up, and I assumed she was going to be what she was, the mistress of a house or something like that, right?
Right.
She was going to have to do something like that. But yeah,
yeah, you do kind of expect her to be a bigger part, but she's his love interest, and I guess just telling the story of how they get to her, there's a whole lot that happens before they can get to that part. But yeah, there's 45 minutes of a movie that doesn't have her in it.
Yeah, she because they said she's been waiting for 9 years or something like that for him.
He says it feels like it was yesterday, and she goes, "It's been 9 years."
Yeah, she said much resentment, and the one thing that I was about to say, the one thing that I appreciate though is that his love interest is someone that's relatively his same age. She's 12 years younger than him.
Yeah, that's not It's not terrible, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, that number matters a little bit less.
Right.
You know,
Now, if he's 20, then yeah, that's a problem.
obviously that's one. But even like at 32, 32 and 12 seems creepy.
Yeah.
He's I don't want to do the math. Let's see. Hold on. He was born in 39. So in 99, right, he's 60. So in this movie, he's 50.
56, right?
Is that math? Ooh, Shawn does math. 56, 55.
Somewhere in there.
He's 43.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
Too bad.
Man, he looks much older than 50 in this movie.
What? Oh, that's son. He's out in the outback, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Chris Hemsworth looks pretty good for his age, and he's Australian, so maybe. But he's also of that generation.
Yeah.
Like Samuel Jackson has looked this. You know, he's looked 45 for 35 years.
Yeah.
You know, like he looked like in Pulp Fiction, he looked like he was in his late 40s.
He looks the exact same age.
He looks just a little bit bigger, like he's just gained a little bit. Like we just watched him in Hitman's Bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
You could have told me that he filmed that 2 weeks after doing Pulp Fiction, and I would have believed you. Whereas
Right.
Morgan Freeman has looked like he was 65 since he was 30. You know, like he looks no different in The Shawshank Redemption, which was, 30 years ago, that he does in whatever he did, whatever most recent thing he's done. So, like, it's just funny how people age, differently. But you're not wrong. Paul Hogan, he just looks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing. The trailer for Lightning Jack is now scrolling on IMDb, and it's the part where where Cuba Gooding he's got the squirrel gun and he shoots like 5 guys in the ass. They all just turn around and he looks over and there's a guy with a shotgun next to him. He just points to that guy and they all come over.
Yeah. It's stuff like that that makes this movie just really fun.
Yeah.
There are some moments in the movie that I feel like they're kind of slow and there's not a whole lot going on. But I don't know that it's something I would take out, like there's the scene where they're getting to know each other. It's pretty early on. He still doesn't have shoes on. When Paul Hogan lets him go after he takes him as a hostage, he takes his shoes and then somehow magically gets them back later on. We never see that part. But they're getting to know each other and he's writing his name in the sand and stuff. And I feel like that scene kind of goes along, goes for a while and you're like, all right, moving on. But it's backstory. They're getting to know each other and you're getting to care about the relationship of these friends that they're building. So I don't know that it would be bad to take it out, but I don't think it would be good to take it out either.
It for what it's worth, also it's a short movie. It's only an
It
hour.
really is. Right. Yeah, it's a short watch.
If you cut that out, it goes from an hour and 30 to an hour and 26.
Yeah.
You're not taking a lot of that. Yeah. I honestly never felt any part of the movie was slow. Like I was just, because once I kind of realized what this movie was, then I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. The beginning part of the movie, like the very opening scene is a bank robbery. And, Paul Hogan, like he's the gunman, right? When the bank manager says, I don't know the combination, and whoever's the leader, he just looks at Hogan, who does 2 shots and blows off the shoulder pads off of his coat, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, they're, like proving that he's a good shot. And he says, oh, I'll go open the safe. So he goes and he does the thing. And then the guy that's out front, the lookout, who's a terrible lookout. And as soon as the crowd starts, as everyone in the town starts leaving, he just leaves. He doesn't like open the door and say, hey, don't come out. Like,
Right.
Something's going on. And then the whole town turns into a mob and is just shooting like crazy. And Paul Hogan escapes. But like how he escapes, it's a little ridiculous, but also really fun because like these guys are shooting at him. Like it's like a barber and the butcher are shooting at him, and
Right.
he pretends like he died in the saddle. And these two are kind of like bumbling, and that's the other thing too. The whole movie has a lot of people wanting to take credit for things that didn't happen.
Right. Like the tailor later on when they go back to the town.
Yeah, the tailor's like, I'm the one that killed him, and they're like, no, you weren't. You know,
Right.
this was my idea. But I mean, literally, the whole town is just basically the law and order, whatever. It's just the whole town is given a gun, and
Right.
if the idea is that if everyone has a gun, then you're safe, I guess.
Coop, your security is not worth a damn. Everybody's got a gun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's so not to go political or whatever. This is just a funny thing. So a good friend of mine who I worked on a movie with, a couple movies with, he lived in a town in Georgia, and now I can't think of the name of the town. Crap! It'll come to me later in the recording. I'm just gonna blurt out some name, and that's what it's from. You know, he lives in this town where it's required by law to own and maintain a firearm in your house. You
Really?
have to have a gun to live in the city limits of such and such Georgia.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called. And he tells me this. I'm like, really? He goes, oh yeah. I said, so you have a firearm at the house? He says, yeah, it's in the safe, but yeah, I have a firearm. I said, okay, that's cool. And he says, let me just give you an idea. There's a little side note here, side story, but I think it's funny. He says, I'm going to tell you this story that describes the mentality of people from my hometown. Okay. So there's a woman who, so crime in this town is effectively non-existent, right? The only crime that we have that happens is that people that live outside of the town come into the town to commit the crime because they don't know the law, right?
Right.
They don't know that if I rob this guy's house, he has a gun. Like there are firearms everywhere, right? So this woman is on her way to work, and she's driving her way to work, and she pulls up to a stoplight or whatever, and some guy jumps in the passenger side of her car with a knife. Instead, drive over there, then you're going to get out, and I'm going to take your car. And she's like,
she says, that's not a knife.
Yeah. No, she says, no, I'm not going to do that. And he says, yeah. And she says, no, you're going to get out of my car and I'm going to go to work because I can't be late. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, so she then literally reaches down where her gun is in the door and then just kills the guy right there in her car. Boom. The head, kills him. Gets on the call, 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a guy, I shot him. He was trying to carjack me. He's dead in my car. Can I just drop him off with you guys? Like, ma'am, what? And she says, there's a guy. He's in my car. He's dead. I got to go to work. I cannot be late for work. If I'm late for work, I'm going to lose my job. So I'm just going to drop the body off at the police station and then go to work. I'm on my way there now, just giving you a heads up. Like, no, ma'am, that's not how this works. And like, trying to talk her or whatever, like you can't just drop the body off. And so she literally pulls into the police station and opens the door, and out falls the body. And she's like, I gotta go. And they're like, no, you can't leave. We have to find out. And she's like, I'm gonna be late for work. I'm gonna lose my job. And so like, we'll call your boss and let him know what's going on. And so that's the mentality of this town is, this dead guy, no, whatever, not a big deal, but can't be late for work. Anyway, there's your weird side story. I'm still racking my brain what the name of that town is. I can't think of what it is, but anyway.
If you live in Georgia and you know the name of this town, you send it to us.
Yeah. If you have to maintain a gun in your hometown, let me know. Did you know that Paul Hogan was nominated for an Oscar? Not for this film, but
I was going to say for this.
No, not for this, but for Crocodile Dundee.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar for his screenplay because he wrote the screenplay for Crocodile Dundee.
I knew that, but I didn't realize he was nominated for an Oscar for it.
Nominated for an Oscar. How cool is
Huh.
that?
That is cool.
I
He also wrote this one, right?
He did.
Or-
He produced it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think that's a lot of talent to write and produce and star in the movie and it not be a bad movie. Like I feel like one of those things is gonna suck if you're not great at your job. Like the writing's not gonna be great, or you're not gonna act well, or something's gonna fall through the cracks.
yeah,
But this is, like we've said, this is a good little movie, and it shows also what kind of a sense of humor he has as a person.
yeah.
Like the scene at the very end where he's dressed as an old lady, and he leans out of the cart and spits tobacco.
There are just a lot of fun gags in this movie. I mean, if you're looking for just a fun afternoon to watch, something to watch on the afternoon, this is a good thing to do. Like I said, Roku. I had to watch a few ads on Roku. Not a big deal. And the ads are placed in good natural breaks in the movie, so there was nothing awkward. So I appreciate Roku for that. But
YouTube has fewer ads and better quality.
okay, yeah,
but either way, you're still not getting that many ads.
Yeah. The only thing that I kind of wish the movie had was like a main antagonist.
Yeah.
Someone to kind of because I thought that there was going to be some kind of showdown with like him and the marshal or the Commissioner Gordon,
right? Or the other gunslinger that they meet in the bar.
Yeah. But they're not. There really wasn't. I mean, yeah.
So speaking of the marshal, going back to that first clip you played at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of things that do bother me about the movie. So I'm going to talk about those right now.
Okay.
The first one is that scene. Because he says, I'm not one for speeches. And I'm not a politician. But then he goes to say he was elected for the job. And then he gives a brilliant speech about being a lawman. And it sounds exactly like something he would say in Batman when he was Commissioner Gordon. Like it's all about, abiding citizens and justice, and so that's the first problem I have. The next problem I have is, as I've already mentioned, Cuba Gooding's shoes, like they're taken from him by Paul Hogan after he takes him hostage, so he won't run back into the town really quickly. He has to walk. So it gives him time to get away. Well, he catches back up with him, and he still didn't have his shoes on. And then he gets a horse, and then all of a sudden he's got his shoes back. Like we never see that happen, which kind of bothers me.
Just the bit with the snake, right?
Right.
Then he says, "Well, you've saved my hide a couple times now.
Yeah.
So get on the horse." So he drives on that horse with him. So I assume at some point, from that point until the next time we see them, which the next day, and they come along that caravan of people that are hustling, rustling the cattle, whatever they're doing, moving cattle. At some point during the night, he was like, "Hey, here are your shoes back."
Yeah.
I would assume that because at that point he's like, "All right, you're no longer an adversary. You saved my butt a couple times.
You've earned your shoes.
You've earned your shoes back."
Yeah.
And
yeah. And then the other thing that bothers me is there is a scene where they're being chased by Indians. And they go into this cavern that they've never been into before. Mm-hmm. And they're like ducking and missing these bits of rock that are hanging down. And the Native Americans that live in the area end up banging their heads on it and falling off their horses. And that's how they escape. Yeah. I just found that a little hard to believe. Like, I feel like a local Indian tribe Native American tribe would, they would know these places a little bit better
Yeah.
and not bang their heads on the walls. But
Yeah, they're playing up the stereotype that engines are kind of dumb
yeah,
and they're okay.
yeah,
It in 2024 eyes, that bit doesn't really hold up well, but for the most part, it's fine, I guess. I mean, the movie really isn't anti-Indian, really,
no, not at all.
Mm, which is good. And again, in a comedy like this, I mean, they could take some, I guess, some cheap shots there, but they really never do.
This isn't like Blazing Saddles or something where it's like blatant. We're going to poke fun at every
Yeah,
race or ethnicity or whatever. It mentions things here, but it never does it in a racist type way
or hurtful or anything like
or
that.
hurtful. Yeah, yeah,
Because there's a couple of times where somebody calls Cuba Gooding boy, right? Which
right,
we all know is code for
right,
the N word, and and so like both times it happens, Paul Hogan kind of steps in a little bit, but is allowed, but does it in a way that allows Cuba to kind of save face,
right.
which is good. He's able to create the false story about Comanche and all that stuff. I do like because I like it when he like whispers like stare straight ahead, like don't look at him. And so like that kind of adds to the intimidation factor when I'm so bad I don't even have to look at you to know that I can kill you.
Yeah,
And he does a good job. So yeah, you're not wrong. But again, this isn't that kind of movie. And
no,
okay, I have to say this about Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles is a timeless, wonderful piece of art that obviously could not have been made in the last 10 years.
right.
World culture would have canceled this movie completely. But I love the fact that memes are still relevant from it. I've seen like a reel where it says, Starbucks unveils, like the new fad right now is these Stanley cups, right?
Right.
These big Stanley mugs. And so he's like, so it says, Target unveils Stanley mug. And then it shows Gene Wilder,
Yeah.
where he pulls out from behind the rock and he's like, oh, boys. He pulls out, he goes, where the white women at?
Yeah.
And they like superimpose like him as Target, and then like he comes out and it just says Stanley mug. Where's all the white women at? And it's so appropriate because you can do the same thing for pumpkin spice or
right.
anything that gets it's too funny. Oh my gosh.
Any mainstream stuff, yeah.
Mainstream thing, yeah. By the way, this Stanley mug thing, of all of the fads that have come around, this one I get the least.
Yeah.
Because
it's just a cup.
It's a mug, yeah. Like I remember like when Yeti was kind of first coming out and people were like, oh, gotta get our Yeti. And I'm like, and my brother-in-law went and bought one of those like $200 Yeti coolers. And I'm like,
right.
Why did you buy this $200 cooler? And he says, well, because it's guaranteed for life. I'm like, oh, okay, but okay.
Yeah.
That's like a huge cost for a cooler.
Well, every so often there's these fads, like when we were in college, it was the Nalgene bottle.
Yeah.
Right. Like that became a thing. And then there was the Hydro Flask that came along not too long ago. And then, now the Stanley Cup. I think that people just latch onto these things for some reason. And then 10 years later, they're like, because I even ask myself now, I'm like, why did I buy an Nalgene bottle? Like, I don't even drink that much water. I think I just did it because everybody else did.
Well, and it's funny. I've had this is so funny. I know we're getting way off the rails here, but that's what happens when there's only two of us in the show. And that's so a coworker of mine, lovely woman, Chrissy, walking down the hallway, the other day with one of those Stanley mugs, and I'm like, "Please don't tell me you spent $60 on a mug." And she just smiles. She just, but it keeps my water cold all day. And I said, so does the Walmart brand Arctic.
Yeah,
They do the same thing.
exactly. I have one of those Walmart brand. I think it's a Ozark or Arctic or something like that. Yeah, and I put ice in it, and it has ice in it at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
it stays cold. Yeah.
It's the same technology. It's metal. It's the same technology. I don't understand. So, and she says, but this one. But then she says, well, but this one is 48 ounces. I'm like, okay. She says, well, I have to fill it up less. I'm like, okay, you're robbing yourself of a few steps during the day. Like, I don't get the big deal. And
Right.
then we went on a conversation about my generation, and you aren't that much younger than I am, so I count you as you and I are both millennials.
Yeah, geriatric.
Geriatric millennials, which really pissed you off.
Yeah, it does.
Though Sam technically Gen X, which is interesting, but
Yeah.
We never grew up drinking water the way the rest of the early millennial, or I guess later millennials, what do you want to call them, young millennials and Gen Z does.
Right.
Because I just water. You drank water when you were thirsty, right? You know, thirsty, I should drink water. And you know, you're told as a kid, oh, you need to drink 8 glasses of water. That seemed like one of those things that they also said, like, drink 8 glasses of water and don't do drugs. Well, yeah, I mean, don't do drugs. Of course not. That makes sense. To drink 8 glasses of water, no, that's ridiculous. Like,
Right.
both of those things seem equally ridiculous to me. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to take cocaine, and of course, I'm not going to drink 8 glasses of water. I don't know why I'm doing those two things, but so I remember when I went in for back surgery about 5 years ago, the woman was trying to stick the needle in my arm, and she was having a hard time finding the vein. And she's like, "How much water do you drink?" I said, "I don't know, like 16 ounces a day." She goes, "You need to be drinking way more than that." And I'm like, "Why? I'm not thirsty."
Right.
You have to hydrate your body. I'm like, am I dehydrated? She says, well, no, but I'm having a hard time finding your vein. Well, that seems like a you problem right now. So, fast forward a couple of years, I'm going to chiropractic services, you know, for kind of maintenance on my back after the surgery. And my chiropractor, lovely person, she asked me, she's like, "How much water do you drink a day?" I'm like, "Why do people keep asking me that?" I'm like, "I don't know, 16 ounces?" And she says, "Oh, honey, you need to drink way more than that." I'm like, "Well, how much am I supposed to drink?" And she said, "You're supposed to take your weight and divide that by 2. That's how many ounces you're supposed to drink." I said, "I should be drinking 110 ounces of water a day." And she's like, "Well, you can round down to 100. I'm like, "No human can do that." I guess,
Right. I would just spend the entire day in the bathroom.
yeah, well, not even that, but I would just be spending all the time drinking.
Right.
I would have to get like a Camel pack and just be on a bottle all the time. I bought one that was big. I have a big 64 ounce, 64, 40. Shit, how big is it? A big bottle. I don't know. It's a big
Yeah.
bottle. I think it's 48 ounces. And I fill that thing up twice a day. And I feel like I do nothing but drink all day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, good Lord. So,
But it's not like we don't drink other liquids.
yeah, I drink sweet tea all the time, and that's 99% water.
Right. And coffee. Like, you know,
I don't drink coffee.
I feel like, I don't know why we're talking about this, but I feel like people are like, if you're not drinking water, you're not getting hydrated. Well, no, I still am. It's not as healthy as water, but it's still hydration. So anyway,
Yeah, anyway, weird thing. I'm going to play some clips now. You ready for some clips?
let's do it.
I don't have a lot, but they're all pretty funny. They're all a little bit longer, but I thought they were all pretty interesting.
The only flaw in the trap was the escape of Lightning Jack Kane. Although several witnesses swore he was shot full of holes and riding dead in the saddle. Kane is of medium height and build, blonde hair, with a mean, weathered face, and has an English accent.
English?
Yes, sir.
I don't speak English.
No?
I'm bloody Australian.
Now, that is the first time we hear him talk on screen,
Right.
which is about 8 minutes into the movie. But I thought that was fun because when he first said it, he's like, oh, he's English. And I thought, wait a minute, is he gonna do an English accent this whole movie? And then he said, I'm bloody Australian. Oh, fun.
Yeah.
All right. Here's where we get to play the game where Shawn doesn't understand what someone says. All right, here we go. So I didn't capture the whole scene. It's just this one bit, but I think I know what he says, but I'm not 100% sure.
You was willing to chaw on my butt to save my hide.
You're willing to do what to my butt?
Char on his butt.
You was willing to chaw on my butt to save my hide.
Chew?
Chew. I mean, it's chew, but it's char. Like, you know, I've heard mountain people say that before. My great grandparents lived up in the sticks in the mountains of North Carolina, and they would say stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You was willing to chaw on my butt to save my hide.
Chew. All right.
Yeah.
It's a funny word. All right.
I thought you were to play the game with my name here, the Mighty Bad Smeller. Like, I thought you were gonna play that game with that line from the movie, but
oh, okay.
yeah, I guess you got that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's just a loose end who will be cut off. He sure ain't no Jesse James.
What do they mean, ain't no Jesse James? What's so special about Jesse James? Sure didn't impress me none.
I know Jesse James.
Yeah.
Rode on a few banks with him a couple of years back with him and his brother Frank.
Frank's the brains. Jesse is a peckerhead.
Pecker. Down there, that's your pecker? Jesse's a peckerhead.
I almost made that my name, and I thought that's probably not appropriate to put on screen here because I'm bald.
Yeah. I didn't even see your name as Mighty Bad Smeller. I didn't even see it. No, I like when he says Jesse James. You know, he the kind of
Jesse James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What's so special, Jesse James? Yeah. Yapeka, you know, it's that thing down there, Yapeka. I cut the whole bit where he says bald because it's not funny. You mentioned this earlier.
That tale I was telling about you being Comanche, Doyle, ain't entirely made up. Of course, it ain't true about Comanche cutting out a man's tongue. Ben, I want you to have this. Fact is, ain't even an Indian charm. I got it off an old Chinaman. That's a fertility charm. They ain't tongues. They're, testicles. You know, balls. From now on, they're tongues. Comanche. Ah, no need to thank me. Just get on with your gun practice. Let's fix us up a bit of grub.
The only part missing there is when he says, "I got it off a Chinaman, paid $30." You know, like that part. The only thing we didn't get. But.
Right.
All right. So this last bit, I captured when I was. There's a story after. Okay, I'm gonna play the clip, and then there's a funny thing that happened.
Jack, folks in town said this trail leads through hostile Apache country.
Good. See this? It's a spirit bag. Bought it off an Apache medicine man. That makes me a full-blood brother to the Apache. I'm practically family. It's only $50.
Well, even if it works for you, what about me and Ben?
No problem. See, this covers my whole family. I just tell them you're my wife, and Ben's our kid. Anyway, relax. There ain't an engine within 100 miles of here. I can tell.
Right, and then we get the smoke signals. Yeah.
When I watched it the first time, I didn't get the smoke signal.
Oh, you didn't see those?
I knew that was a punchline.
Yeah.
Indian within 100 miles. Like I knew that was a punchline to prove once again that he's kind of full of shit and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
I didn't see those until when I'm pulling the clip, and and then I see the bad cartoon smoke signals coming up, and there's like 3 of them, and I thought, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be looking at, because there was like cattle or something or horses there on the road, and I thought, is that literally like Apache there? No, it can't be right. It's got to be something in the background. I just missed it. So
yeah.
That.
So that clip reminded me. There's something I didn't talk about. Something else that I don't like about the movie.
All right.
And that is the soundtrack.
Okay.
The score, right? All we get is that da 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 da, and this could be called Lightning Jack theme and variations, because that theme is in every scene of the movie, just done in a different variation. Like we get the slow version, and we get the fast version, and we get the minor version, and we get like the rock and roll version at some point. Like it's always the same theme. And then I think there are 2 other times in the movie where there's some other music, and the one is when she's singing in the bar, and the other is at the end of the movie when we get that kind of Indian drum music at the end, and then of course the last during the credits. But man, it got a little annoying this time. I haven't seen this movie, and like I said, it's a guilty pleasure, but I haven't seen it in probably 5 years, and so I'd kind of forgotten about the soundtrack.
So
score.
So kind of basing it off of looking at the composer Bruce Rowland, who is Australian. The things that he's known for are things I've never heard of, except he has done some music in the he did Aladdin, the TV series, where he was a music producer for the title theme, and arranger. So he did some stuff like that. But as far as the composer, almost everything is like Australian based.
Mm-hmm.
So like he did the Sydney 2000 Olympics opening ceremony music for the TV special. Like,
and you know what it was? Da, 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 da. And they just lit torches while they played it.
Journey to the Center of the Earth, the TV series. The Wonderful World of Disney in 1997 for an episode. The movie Zeus and Roxanne. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
That's something I've heard of. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, okay, he did compose the music for Aladdin, the TV series. But,
okay. Which I never knew existed.
Oh yeah, I yeah, I mean, I watched it as a kid. Well, when did that come out? 94? Yeah, I watched that as a kid. It's kind of a weird concept because the genie is still there and Aladdin is still there, but Jafar is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the idea that Genie has been freed, but just comes back for wacky adventures with Aladdin.
Yeah,
he still has.
They're just pals and they hang out.
Powers, but he's just palling around with Aladdin.
Okay.
Anyway, whatever. Not the point. The point is that you're not wrong. The music does kind of
get old.
Yeah, but I mean, 94. I mean.
Yeah, but we had Jurassic Park.
You can't do
94.
You can't do that. That's not.
I know that this is not John Williams, but come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but here's the problem. Here's the real problem. Read that piece of trivia you read to me earlier.
Okay. So, I don't have it pulled up, so I'm just going to summarize.
Oh well.
Okay.
I don't have it, but I have IMDb pulled up. So. Okay. You and I were talking earlier. There's no game today. We're about to wrap up the whole episode. But we were looking at some of the trivia. So to your point about the music, and I said, here's the problem. The problem is that the director Simon Windsor said that making this film was a logistical nightmare because there were so many other westerns filming on the same locations at the same time, such as Wyatt Earp, Geronimo, City Slickers 2, and Tombstone. So the problem,
those are big westerns.
Those are big westerns, and Wyatt Earp and Tombstone have. I haven't seen City Slickers 2 or Geronimo, or I've seen City Slickers 2. It's been a long time, but I've seen Wyatt Earp 3 or 4 times and Tombstone 10 or 11 times.
Yeah,
they have great soundtracks, and this one is not one of them. So I think that's part of the problem. Is that you can't compare it to Jurassic Park, but there are other films of its contemporary happening at the same time. And you say, well, now, Shawn, this movie is a super low budget, $36 million budget. Yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean that the composer has to phone it in.
Yeah. Lightning Jack theme and variations. Check it out.
I like it.
That's probably my biggest complaint about the movie, if I'm being honest.
And it's funny because I didn't even think about it until you said that. But now that you said it, it's one of those things like, oh, now that you pointed it out, I can't unhear it.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Theme and variations. I like it. All right. Well, that's kind of it. That's actually kind of the show. I'm gonna do the top 10 out of 10. So I'll play again. I don't have a thing, so I'll play. Speaking of butt,
in the butt, yes.
There you go. Where did the snake bite you?
In the butt, yes.
Okay. Sorry. We'll get this movie score from 0 to 10, and of course we'll have to start with Andrew.
So IMDb has a 5.5 out of 10 for this movie. I don't think it's that bad of a movie. I think it's a little bit better than that, and there's some nostalgia for me. Score aside, I'm still going to give this around maybe a 6.3 out of 10.
Okay.
It's a good little watch. It's short. It's funny. Definitely should watch it if you haven't seen it.
Okay. I had a good time with it too. I don't, and maybe we've never given the listener ever like what the score is. Like where do we come up with this number? Because I've always kind of felt like it's just how we felt about the movie, in watching it. Because you give The Hitman's Bodyguard a 6.5, and like I feel like those two movies are miles apart in the terms of production quality.
Yeah,
every metric you can think of. These two movies don't exist in the same universe.
Right.
But
nostalgia. 1994
plus nostalgia plus
Yeah.
Paul Hogan is just kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the Australian Leslie Nielsen. Like, that's why those numbers are closer than they should be.
Yeah.
I gave Hitman's Bodyguard an 8.95 because I objectively love that film. I just love that movie. It makes me happy. If it wasn't for the fact that I need to go to bed, I could watch it right now. I mean, seriously, that's where I am with that movie. I have other movies that I'm like that with, which is weird, but it's fine. But with this movie, however, now that I've talked a lot, I'm actually going to give it a 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had such a good time with this movie. This was a movie that hit at the right time. We've talked about this a lot of times also on the show. Like, sometimes we hit a movie, we watch a movie, it got us in the right day, or sometimes it gets us on the wrong day.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just the thing that I needed. Like, I don't know anything about that movie. We were going to watch Slow West, but I feel like it
wouldn't have been the same.
It was going to be serious and whatever.
Yeah.
Probably a little sad. And it's like, I had a whole day of serious and a little sad. I needed some ridiculous. I needed someone to say something about...
It was just a loose couple of years back with him and his brother Frank. Frank's the brains. Jesse is a peckerhead.
That's what it is. which I got. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Paul Hogan. That's going to do it for us, though. Thank you, Andrew, for picking this movie. I do really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Next month, next week, next month, all DC all the time.
This is my month coming up here.
This is DC. In fact, I highlighted them in the spreadsheet in black. So
let me ask you a question since we're talking about DC real quick. Have you seen the first Aquaman?
Yes.
Okay. The second one is now out streaming. I don't know if you want to add it to our list or not, but we can talk off air.
We can do that. We have to bump something.
Yeah.
I already have the list,
that's true.
and I could bump it for the Batman
Mm-hmm.
because I have seen the Batman.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah.
And so we could do Aquaman next week.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second Aquaman, so I'm kind of curious.
All right. Well, then we'll make an executive decision right now without Sam. He won't care. Aquaman 2 is next week.
Electric Boogaloo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aquaman 2 next week. Then week after that, Shazam 2.
Okay.
Black Adam, and then we'll end the month with Blue Beetle.
Yeah, that one, you're going to like that one.
All right.
I just know you are.
I believe you. I believe you. That's going to do it. I have nothing more to say about this. Other than go to our website, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com. There you can find links to all our stuff. Go support us there. We still have merch out there. It still exists. If you want to go buy something, you can do that. That'd be great. If you actually still want, I've moved, so I found all of my stickers and other little stuff that we have here. So if you want a sticker, just shoot me a message. I'll mail you a sticker. No problem. Leave us a review. That'd be really helpful to leave us a review on iTunes as well as YouTube. There, go like and subscribe to us there. That'd be really really awesome to do that. But that's it. That's our show. So on behalf of Sam, who isn't here, Andrew, this is Shawn saying thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for Aquaman 2.
This is Cheap Seat Reviews.